Alright, sorry about that. This video is for Shawn Lucas. He sent me a video back on the 1st. Didn't forget about you. I've just literally been too busy to check my PMs on YouTube, but I did run across there today and see the video that you posted. In the video, I wish I could see the angle of the pinion. That's probably the issue. It's what's going to cause binding the most, is if that pinion angle is too sharp. I don't run MIPs on any of my SCX10s, but I do run them on my Wraith and on my Sportsman rig, and I can show you kind of how mine are so you can compare. As far as the two part numbers from MIP, I'm running the Scorpion MIPs on my Wraith and on my Scorpion, and as far as I know, everybody runs the same one. I don't think there's any difference, but I suppose there could be. So basically, what you're going to do is look for a bind. So probably one thing to do would be to take the drive shaft completely off, and then spin that front axle and look for your bind. It's possible. I've seen like on one of Harley's rigs we built factory, the gears, the ring gears bound up. Wasn't a big deal. They run in and they smoothed out just fine. So take the drive shaft completely out of the picture, spin it, make sure the ring gear is all completely smooth. At that point, you can put the drive shaft on and only connect one end, and then spin it by hand at the angle, and see if you can, determine like an end of the drive shaft that might be having the bind. You can see the angle mine are at here. It's not very steep. The angle, or the axle, is angled down to minimize the amount of work that CV shaft has to do, and the least amount of that you can get in there, the better. You see the angle, well, maybe you can't see. The angle at the transmission is much more severe, but it's still okay. I mean, the MIPs tend to move all right. And here's my actual Scorpion. And you can just see the pinion angle there. It's pretty slight. There's not much bend at all. So the straight as you can get that, the better. On the front, you have the concern with steering linkage getting too low. You might want to raise that on top of those steering arms if the angle gets everything pointing too far forward. So that's another thing to look for. So like I say, the best way to do it is just take it apart and look for the bind one part at a time. Make sure the axle spins okay. Make sure the drive shaft, when it's not connected to the transmission, spins okay. Disconnect everything from the transmission and spin it, and make sure everything in there spins okay. So somewhere in there you're going to find your bind. Like I say, I couldn't see from your video how steep that pinion angle is, but my suspicion is that might be too steep, causing that CV shaft to bind up a little bit. So, and like I say, if you do find that the bind ends up being in the ring gear, just run it. That'll usually wear in and be fine, and not too much time. So anyway, hopefully this helps. Check it out. Let me know what you find out. If none of that still helps, get me some close-ups of underneath of that rig, preferably from the side like this, so that I can see how steep everything is, how much of a bind. A lot of people make their links, and that's great because it's a low-cost option, but it's also the most important tuning piece on your vehicle, because all your suspension geometry is determined by those links. So you're going to want to take your stock links, get some calipers, measure them eye to eye from the middle of the eyelet on each end, and then make sure that the links that you make match. If you don't, things can go wrong. So my suspicion is that maybe, since you replaced the rear upper links and that cleared up the problem, you're probably having the same issue on the front. So anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know how it goes.